The Variety Artist, Episode 4. This one's all about murder mysteries and performer philosophies. And make sure to visit my Facebook page at The Variety Artist, where you can ask me to ask questions of our guests. Get involved. Now let's start the show.
Welcome to The Variety Artist, providing aspiring artists and entertainers with in-depth discussions from top performers from all over the world. So get ready to book some gigs, make some money, and have some fun with your host, John Abrams.
My guest today is an entertainer, actor, writer, magician, producer, and vlogger. He has played hustlers, priests, cops, convicts, nerds, and even aliens. His performances have been called dynamic and compelling. He has co-starred on Star Trek Voyager, Wings, and a recurring role as Benny on UPN's In the House with LL Cool J, Debbie Allen, and Kim Wayans. He owns the entertainment production company Sharpo Entertainment Productions. This Los Angeles-based troupe specializes in interactive mystery, magic, and comedy for events and streaming media. Beginning in 2017, his murder mystery plays are being produced in New York by Nicole Newman of Lucky Stars Entertainment and in Mount Shasta, California by the New Frontier Theater Company. He is also a proud magician member of the Academy of Magical Arts at the Magic Castle in Hollywood. Variety Artist, I give you Eric Sharp.
Hey, John, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This is really, really exciting. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm excited about having you on. In fact, I saw one of your murder mysteries a number of years ago, let's say, and you were one of the funniest guys I've ever seen in my life.
Well, and that was before I even started speaking, so that was the good news. I just showed up and stumbled around. Someone said that to me the other day. I was in the Magic Castle, and she goes, "Oh, a comedy magician." I hadn't done anything yet. It's like, I just have a funny face, man. What can I say?
Did you just walk in the room and she looked at you and said, "Oh, comedy magician"?
Pretty much, yes. And that's the story of my life, man.
In the intro, I talked a lot about the different things you've done professionally. But tell me a little bit about you personally. I look on Facebook and I see you posting these really neat videos with your kids doing Star Wars and Star Trek and that type of thing. Tell me about that.
Sure. Well, number one, I am a dad. I'm a father, and I'm a loving husband. My wife, Nora, and I have been married 11 years. We have 3 children. I'm an entertainer, and I'm involved in the community with my lodge group. So I have a very full and rich, rewarding life in and outside of my work. I'm a very blessed person. And yeah, the kids and I and Nora, we do these backyard videos, and one of them got a lot of traffic on YouTube. We called it the Sith of Khan, and it's a cross between Star Wars and Star Trek, and it's just a lot of laughs, and I'm just amazed how many people tuned in for it. And then in my own happiness vlog, I created a character called Emotional Spock, where I play Spock, but who can't get control of his emotions, and it's very Nimoy having some fun kind of a thing. So.
Now that's your vlog?
Yeah, which is Sharpo.video, takes you right to my YouTube channel, because I have a long channel name on YouTube, so I created a shortcut, Sharpo.video, and there I have the happiness vlog, which is hopefully inspirational interviews with people who inspire me, and I think will inspire other people who tune in. And I also do a lot of magic with Micah Cover, the magician, also a member of the castle.
Oh yeah, Micah's great. I refer a lot of business to Micah.
I love Micah. He really is spectacularly talented showman and master of his craft. And then lately I've been interviewing Duffy Hudson as he portrays famous characters that he does for different one-man shows. He's an award-winning artist who's done one-man shows as Einstein and Edgar Allan Poe and George Burns. Next week I'll be interviewing Houdini, and he stays in character, and it's very strange. A mutual friend of ours, Tom Katzis. You probably remember him because he also did some mysteries with us back in the 90s when we were all children. And he plays Abraham Lincoln. Oh. And he is an award-winning Lincoln who does this for parties and corporate events, and a really spectacular notoriety he's gaining is this irreverent kind of take on Lincoln. There's a lot of laughs. So he's supposed to be an upcoming guest.
I'm sorry, where can people find that?
Sharpo.video, SHARPO.video.
And so you're interviewing historic characters right now, right?
That's some of them. Like I say, it's the funny thing about the YouTube vlogging community. The guidelines say pick a niche, stick with the niche, do that, and then you'll find an audience. And that's so hard when you do want to live a very great life and be a full life. So I started with the happiness vlog because finding happiness in a very crazy world, I think, is a goal everybody might pursue. So it started with some fun inspirational videos and just trying to share my take on ways to find happiness. And then I started having friends join me, and one was Phil Perrier, a comedian writer for Leno and Letterman. More recently, Arsenio Hall, and the show came back, and we did some pop culture shows. So finding a niche was difficult. And then the magic videos, we've done about 25 of those. So I can't fit into a box. So if there's a niche, it's the Sharpo niche. It's just being myself.
It's the Sharpo show. It
is. And you know what? It's like what you're doing here. You're interviewing variety artists, and right. I'm a variety artist. I'm of the variety entertainment.
You do a little bit about a little bit of everything.
I'll give you a secret on that.
Go ahead.
I read a lot of book sleeves.
Oh.
Yes.
Just the sleeves?
Yeah, just the sleeves. That's how you can be a conversationalist, get into most any conversation. If someone mentions something, you go, well, I read a lot of book sleeves. I'm pretty much an expert now on that subject.
So you can go into the bookstore and go through, 20, 30 books in an hour.
Probably so, yes. And we have a terrific bookstore here in the Valley. It's a bargain bookstore in Van Nuys. I think it's on Gilmore Street. It's been there a long time. Small, narrow aisles with books piled to the ceiling in a very nice family-owned place. It's all used books, because you can't find a new bookstore except on Amazon anymore.
Sure.
So, I bring my kids in there once in a while, and we'll find some, vintage children's books, and I'll find some books on magic, and I found some gems in that store. So I, highly recommend get your face out of your phone, stop going for a scroll and go for a stroll.
There you go. What's the first time I ever saw you was at a murder mystery. You've been doing that for 20, 25 years?
1989. That was my first mystery show.
Wow.
So yeah, and I'm just shy of 52 years old, and I'm very blessed. I've got good health, thank God, knock wood, and I'm full of energy and full of love for the form of entertainment, so I don't plan to stop doing that anytime soon. But I started in New Jersey. I was already acting on stage in different plays, and I was totally bitten by the theater bug. There was an audition for a troupe called the Murder on Cue Mystery Company, which was headed up by Kathy Reed and John Dwyer. Now, Kathy Reed was a former Miss New Jersey and had been in a showbiz family, and she had run the Damn Sight Dinner Theater with Billy Van Zandt and Jane Millmore. Now, if you don't know those names, after Neil Simon, they are the most produced playwrights in the world.
Wow.
Their plays are produced in every city, every day, everywhere. Billy Van Zandt and Jane Millmore went on to produce lots of television sitcoms over the years on different networks. When I got to LA a few years back, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I saw them. They invited me. I got to see them do Anything But Love, sure. Which was Richard Lewis and Jamie Lee Curtis. They produced that show. They produced the Martin Lawrence show. Anyway, they had all been part of this theater company, the Damn Sight Dinner Theater Company, which did close. And then they went on to produce these murder mystery shows, which are very different in style than the way we do them here on the West Coast, the way that you and I had done them with Keith and Margot's mysteries. And what I created with my show is sort of a hybrid between the two.
Well, a couple things before we get into that. When you first auditioned for the original company, were you doing leads?
No, I was completely new to the style of interactive immersion theater. I mean, what it is no fourth wall, no stage. The room is the stage. The audience is part of your cast. So it's a question of being in character and creating your own shtick. And so I was a minor character in the beginning that got to create these crazy over-the-top personalities and interact. I'd do some routine at this table with some people. It was kind of like strolling magic, but strolling theater. You do a little here, and then you move over there, and after a while you develop an act that you're kind of doing the same thing at each table, but they haven't heard it because you just worked over there. And at the very first one, they said, listen, you're the victim. So half an hour into the show, you're going to just do a big death scene and drop dead, and that's your part. But
Wait. Was this when the murder mysteries had already started, or was this
during the mingling cocktail party, when you first arrive?
All right.
Right. So you enter, and then you work the crowd in character, and then you're supposed to drop dead, and then a detective comes in to investigate. So but they had a sound system for music, and it wasn't working. And they said, on your resume, you play some piano. Would you play piano for half an hour and then drop dead? So that was my beginning with the wonderful world of interactive entertainment.
And then how did that transfer into you being the detective? Because now you're the lead in all of them.
Right. Well, over time, I've done many performances with such a great cast of actors out there on the East Coast. One of the great actors came out west, name is Blair Hickey, and he's become a very accomplished television and film actor. And if you IMDb him, but him and I would play together along with some really amazing talents. John Dwyer was a great detective lead, and Michael K. Brown was a great lead, and they did this kind of a Jay Leno meets Columbo approach to the detective. So you're half stand-up comedian Don Rickles roasting the audience and half Columbo solving the crime. I watched them work, and I kind of picked up a lot of hints on how to ingratiate yourself to an audience and get on their side and be friends. And so after doing them for a few months, I decided I'd try and write one.
Oh.
I had already had some success in New York as a playwright because I had been brought into a show, and then in the theater company that I had made friends, I said, well, I wrote this little play, and they let me produce my play there, and it got nice notice and got brought to another theater and got some notice there. So I was already trying to do some writing too. And so I said, well, let me try writing one of these. And I wrote it. I produced it with them, and then I did a version of it at a little coffee house kind of restaurant in New York City. I think it was called Carpe Canem, Seize the Dog, or something strange. But,
I'm not sure if that's a really good name for a restaurant.
Seize the Dog. Yeah. Well, especially a vegetarian restaurant. Not a great. Yeah. So when I came out west to try my hand in the showbiz mainstream industry, I had remembered enjoying doing these so much. And so I sent a letter to Keith and Margot's murder mystery, and Margot got my letter. And I had said, I see you're looking
for those folks that don't know, Keith and Margot's murder mystery was the big murder mystery here. And they still do a lot in Southern California, right?
They're a nationwide organization. And
okay.
They do a fine job. It's still a family run. Keith O'Leary, Margot Morrison, they're my friendly competition. They're nice family. And I met a lot of great friends over the years with them, until I hit the ceiling and I needed to produce my own thing.
Sure. So you come to Southern California, you start producing Sharpo's murder mysteries.
Well, first I came out west and I needed a gig. So I contacted Margot. I said, I do see that, this is a cross between stand-up comedy and theater. I said, and she goes, come on down and meet me. And the day I was to meet her, I got cast in an NBC special to play in a TV special called Abbott and Costello Meet Jerry Seinfeld.
Okay.
And I met Jerry Seinfeld. It was nice. I got to work with him one day. It was on NBC. It was the Thanksgiving special. I had one line, which was later cut. Paid as what they call an under five,
Yeah.
And then so I had to reschedule. I came down and met with her, and I wound up working with Margot from 93 or 94 might have been, all the way up until about 2002. And then I took a break, and then in 2004, I started Sharpo Entertainment Productions, Sharpo.com, SHARPO, and that became my primary livelihood, creating mystery, magic, and comedy for live events, parties, and dinner theater.
So you're doing these now, or back then and now, at restaurants, corporate events.
Yeah, country clubs, cruises. We play the Queen Mary quite often. There's a lot of events we do on the Queen Mary, a terrific restaurant in Santa Clarita called Le Chene, run by award-winning chef Juan Alonso, who has created a most amazing oasis in the middle of the desert. It has been a mecca for years. It was actually, the restaurant was featured many, many years ago in Steven Spielberg's first movie, Duel, with the giant trucks. That was all filmed right outside that restaurant and right there. So it's in the movie. And then when he bought the restaurant, he's such a fabulous chef, and he makes his own wine. It's a winery too, that he had radio personalities came and dined there. And then they just started talking about how great it was. I mean, the food is so amazing. He's created such a beautiful things. So Le Chene in Santa Clarita, right here in Van Nuys, of all places, is they like to call it Lake Balboa. There's a restaurant called the 94th Aero Squadron.
I'm familiar with it.
Love the Aero Squadron. It's right off the airport, so you do get a lot of private planes coming and going during the day, and it's a beautiful, unique space. Nora, my partner and wife, and I, we always look for unique places to produce our events, because anybody can put up a show in a hotel banquet room. But when you're trying to create a unique experience for your attendees, you know, having something like the Aero Squadron or the Glen Tavern Inn out in Santa Paula was always a very special one for us. That was built in 1910, I think, or 1911, and was actually visited by Harry Houdini and Mae West. Supposedly, at one point, it was a speakeasy and a brothel. So we look for unique spaces. So that's a great venue.
At the Aero Squadron, are you there weekly, or how does that work?
No, the industry's changed a little bit and our direction changed. We do mostly private parties and corporate events now. We do very few public shows, and that's just sort of a thank you, or if someone wants to bring us in for an event, but for budget reasons, they feel they'd be better off sharing that event with other people. Then we might open up a box office. They were doing a mystery this weekend, open to the public at the Aero Squadron, but most of the time it's private parties, company events. I'd say once every other month we'll do a public show, just to keep, something that the community can be part of.
Sure. So tell me, when I hire you for a corporate event, what does this look like? So the crowd comes in, and what does it actually, paint me a picture. What does it look like?
First of all, let me say this is about as much fun you can have without really, getting in trouble with the law. So you arrive, you're greeted by a murder mystery host, a mysterious person who's kind of in between worlds. And this person will greet you with a welcome program, a pen, and words of caution. Don't trust anybody. Watch your back. Somebody at this party is a diabolical, cold-blooded killer.
So the audience, they're on edge from the time they walk in.
And you want them to be looking around. I mean, I've had people ask, well, can you just surprise them? They're having cocktails and then someone drops dead. And I said, well, I think you're robbing them of the opportunity to play. The minute they come in, if they know they're participating in a mystery, they're keeping their eyes open for suspicious characters, and they're getting handwriting samples of suspicious people. Actors are working the crowd. I'm usually undercover doing my strolling magic and close, and that's actually why I got into strolling magic. Magic was to connect to my audiences in my mystery show, and then it just became a huge passion for me. Cocktails usually should be an hour. People mingle, they get to know each other, they warm up. This is a game as much as a show, and the audience, to feel ready to play, you got to warm up and break the ice. They call it.
Sure, you're doing close-up magic that whole time.
And here's what I tried to do, and I tried not to repeat an effect for the hour, which is hard because some people want to see, what did you do over there? But I'll usually do anywhere between 10 and 20 different effects, the close-up effects for people during that 1 hour program. So,
and as you're doing that, are you kind of getting to know the audience and who you're going to use throughout the show?
Yeah, you're taking their temperature, as it were. You're looking for the more outgoing people. I've been doing it a long time. So as I'm making conversation and making friends and learning names, I'm learning things about them that I'll probably forget after the show. But, they might say something that I might remember. Oh, he's an electrician. Oh, she's a hairstylist. Oh, they just took a vacation to Paris. Oh, they just bought the house. Oh, they just had a new baby, or they're getting married. And then during the program, those become great fodder for interrogations because once a body drops dead on the floor and now you're a detective, you take the badge out. Now the stakes are very high.
Okay, so they come in
Mhm.
and you're doing close-up magic. They're doing cocktails and such. Then they
Right.
sit down for dinner. Is that when someone gets murdered, or how does that work?
Well, we try and keep this structured a little bit more than this is. We've created a format. The way I like to do it is mingling, then sit them down, give them some food. I don't want a hungry audience. Nobody wants to do stagecraft for a hungry crowd. So at Le Chene, for instance, we'll do salads and entrees back to back before the stagecraft begins.
Mm.
It depends a little bit on the venue. So I like to feed them a little bit. We'll put out some salad, put out the entree, and we don't clear the entrees right away because that's when we're looking to see, are they winding down? Are they ready to play? And then we'll ask the wait staff to kind of recede. I have a policy. The policy is no stagecraft during serving, chewing, and clearing. We want them to enjoy their dining experience as much as they enjoy the show experience, and we don't want the two to mix.
That makes sense. In fact, that's one of the problems I've always had with any kind of dinner theater.
Yes.
Is because if you're doing dinner during a show, you're looking down, taking a bite of your steak or your fish or whatever it is, and you're missing half of the show.
They're clanking dishes, they're pouring wine, they're trying to get a waiter over here to clear this or that. So as soon as Act 1 begins, the staff is told, back off. You clear after the act. So once we know the meal is winding down, I'll send up the host to give some safety rules, which is like an airline safety speech for theater. Exits are over here, and don't push any knives into the dead people. Okay,
right. These are not real guns, especially here in L.A.
Well, we can't actually say that. What we can say is, if you see a gun, it's probably. Probably, but and I joke about it. It's not something I take very lightly because of all the horrible violence we've seen. So my show is gun free. There's lots of ways that murders can be committed. So you're not going to actually see a prop gun in my show.
So you're talking about poisonings and different things like that?
Well, if it's a shooting, it would have happened off stage somewhere, and the body is stagger in or something, or the body is stabbed, you're poisoning, electrocution. Give me some fun ones. Psychic aneurysm. No, I don't. Different methods, and why not be creative? Because it is a whodunit. I mean, the element is solving the crime. It's funny and it's good fun, and everyone's having a great time in theater and interacting. But there's a mission, and that is to solve the crime.
Right. Who tells the story? I can't even remember who it was that told the story about poison jelly. Have you heard that?
The poison jelly.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about the poison jelly.
I can't even remember who said it. They were supposed to be poisoned by, I don't know, a glass of water or something, but it wasn't available. All they had available was a jar of jelly. So it was their time to die. Instead of taking the drink of the poison water or whatever it was, they grabbed the poison jelly, took a drink, and oh my gosh, poison jelly.
Well, there it is. That's an actor thinking on his feet, huh?
Yeah.
And that's great, especially if the other actors are listening and then go and don't say, yes, you shouldn't have drank that water.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the nice thing about working with terrific, talented actors and creating the chemistry and lots of shows together. You get into a rhythm. You're listening to each other. It's very important. This is improvisational. It's not improv. It's improvisational. Big difference. In an improv show, there's no script. There's no plot. It's just being built from the ground up in front of the audience. But in this kind of a show, you do have a track to run on. And as you're running down that track, you do it, you'll have a lot of choices you can make. So after they've eaten a little bit, after a little safety speech, then we'll either have some exposition done by a guest speaker or some actors, or something happens and then boom, body drops on the floor. My badge comes out. I take control of the crime scene. Everybody freeze, police, and then we're dealing with an emergency. There's a dead body on the floor, and suddenly everybody in this room is a suspect. And it can be 10 people at an elegant little dinner party, or it can be hundreds of people. My biggest audience was 1,100 people in Atlanta at the Aquarium for a big show for I forget the name of the organization, but it was a big deal.
So
Anyway,
during this time, you're working with the audience that has no idea what's going on, and I remember you reenacting the scene and doing all sorts of crazy comedy stuff.
well,
With
we
the
deal
people in
with the
audience.
emergency. First, we deal with the body. I mean, you got a dead body on the ground, and then we establish my credentials as the authority in the room, and then we find some clues, and we share those clues, make sure everybody gets access to the clues. We set up an evidence station, and then there's a lot of interrogation and audience improvisation between the detective and the audience.
Mm.
So it becomes a very interactive part, and that can be the most fun too. You never know what an audience person will say,
Sure.
so you really have to be listening and ready. And a lot of times they will throw you for such a loop or say something so funny, and you get all the credit for it for being hysterical if you're smart enough to shut up and let them get the laugh.
That's right. There's an old saying that says, "How do you stop a tornado? You don't. You step out of the way."
That's it exactly. So Act One would be about 30 minutes of the program. Then we take a little break. That's when the waiters come back in. They clear the dishes. They serve more wine or whatever people are having for refreshment. Maybe bring out the dessert. Then we're ready for Act Two, and we come back, and it's another 30-minute act. And in our show, there's usually more than one murder. There's usually a double homicide, sometimes a triple, and there are twists and turns in the case, and somehow different MOs, but they're connected. I mean, they're looking for opportunity to have committed the crime, the motive to have committed the crime, and how the crime was committed. Motive, opportunity, and method. There's those elements that come in. We like to end the second act with a dramatic action that kind of really puts a button on the scene, that we clear away the red herrings, and we exonerate some of the audience members so they don't have too many suspects. And then we give them the chance to write out a solution for a chance to win. So that's another short intermission as they fill out a solution form. Then we come back and we solve the crime. We arrest the perpetrator, and usually it's one of the audience members that we frame.
Oh, there.
Oh yeah, we like to use audience members for the perp. Because when we do that, and they think, oh, the killer may be one of us. Oh no, then people play harder. There's a lot more engagement because they're looking around. They're seeing a room full of suspects,
And including a lot of people they know, right? Because if they brought their spouse or
right,
their family.
Who knew it was going to be Mary from accounting? I had no idea. And then after we make the arrest, we'll do a little curtain call, and then we do usually several prizes. We're big on trophies at Sharpo. We love trophies. We give out 2 Best Actor Award trophies that and we give out the famous Hammer of Justice Award trophy for the person who solves the crime. And I've been using the same trophy shop since 2004. It's called Sportscraft Trophies on Van Nuys Boulevard. We've had people who said, "Hey, I won too," and they've called the trophy shop to try and get their own trophy. And,
is that right?
And he said to them, he says, "You got to win that at a Sharpo show, buddy." And he would not sell it to him. So that's how much I love Sportscraft Trophies on Van Nuys Boulevard.
That's great promotion for you too.
Oh yeah. No, well, you know what? Everyone wants to. If they've won the trophy, we pose with the cast for our Instagram pictures and Facebook pictures, and everyone hashtags us. It's a great element of the show.
There's some great marketing lessons in there because people bring home the trophy. People ask them about the trophy. Where did they get it?
Right.
Sharpo Entertainment. They take a picture with you. They put it up on their mantle. Once again, people ask again, who is that and where did that happen? Oh, it was a really fun time. It was a great time. Sharpo Entertainment.
Exactly. Years ago, we would give out coffee mugs, Sharpo coffee mugs, Sharpo Entertainment. And one day we did a party at a house somewhere on the west side of L.A., small house party. And after the show, we gave out a couple more coffee mugs and the trophy. And the guy who owned the house comes over and he says, those coffee cups will go with this one. And he pulled out a Sharpo coffee mug he had won 5 years earlier.
Oh.
And that's how he had brought us in for this party. He said, well, I knew it was the perfect thing for this party too. So it's an expensive way to get another coffee mug, but
isn't it?
We're not cheap, you know. Yeah. But so that's basically the program. And it's been such an exciting part of my life. You know, I love television. I love movies. I love working in these avenues. but there's something about working interactive theater, creating these characters, creating these relationships. You know, as a magician, that magic is a bridge. It's a connector between human beings. And when you can take a grown person and through magic and mystery and this interactive element, create a connection, we all become kids again for a few minutes, and it's really something. It's my favorite part.
Live theater, especially interactive theater, is so much fun. Just what you're saying, when you're interacting with the audience.
Well, my theory is guys like you and me that have a sense of wonder and joy, especially with magic, let's say, we're bursting to share this with an audience. I go through moments where I binge learn magic. I will learn a routine and I go, oh, I can't wait to show this to them. I just can't. I'm bursting to share this because it delighted me so much. So, I mean, that's the difference between a good performer and a great performer. One of the key ingredients is the passion to share. Mm-hmm. To share something, to share this experience, to share what you fell in love with about it with them.
Yeah.
And then you're always of service. You're always being useful. Your goal is really the hospitality business. It's not about, oh, look at me. It's not about, oh, look what I can do. It's about trying to be useful to them.
Makes sense.
And to me, that's my whole philosophy. I would rather be useful, work the small time, than become a big star, although I'm not against it.
Anybody out there wants to make Eric a big star.
Yeah, but only if I can be useful, if I can serve the story, if I can serve the playwright, if I can serve my audience and tell the story and share something that will really enrich them. And when we think about how many hours and days we actually get in life, if you really stopped and counted it up and say, this audience that you've never met before, they're going to come and spend the next few hours with you. They're giving you that time. And you have an obligation to make it worth their while. You have to really give them something valuable for that, so that they leave and go, wow, I'm so glad I did this. This has really made my day or my week or my year, or just brighten my mood.
Yeah, if you come from that position of making their day, and being all about them, it's much easier and more fun for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there have been occasions where it's not my dream experience, where I'm out there performing and I'm trying to go, why isn't that joke landing? Why is it that always works? What's going on here? How come that trick didn't get the big response? And where's my endorphin rush? Hey.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the strange things about if you do any television or movies. I know you've done a lot of that. You just have a camera in your face and you do something hilarious or something that would normally get a reaction from a live audience, and you don't get that feeling back.
Right. No, then you're relying on the crew to come over and tell you afterwards, oh, you were marvelous. You were wonderful. You were so brilliant. Let's all hear it for you. And what I notice in a live show, if I'm not getting that feedback, usually I take a deep breath, I step back and I go, are you serving them or you? Are you there because you think you're being clever, or are you there because you have something to share? And as soon as I can make that adjustment, I've been able to, most of the time you can turn around a show if you can step back for half a second and say, okay. And then usually at that point, I throw away the script. I throw it away and I just play with them until I can get us back. But you're right. In film, TV, you don't have that gratification. So there you have to say, yes, I nailed that take. If it's a film, film is you get your line or your little speech, they say cut, and then they reset, and you do it again. And each time they do, you get that opportunity to try and nail it, to try and really nail a performance that will be of service. And so you don't get the laughter, that interactive feedback. But if you've been doing it a long time, you kind of know if you nailed it. You kind of say, yeah, I did that. Or the director will come over and say, too much. back off. Those are, just yesterday I had an audition for a commercial that I had been nailing commercial auditions lately with no response, no callback, no bookings, which happens. You think you're on fire. You're lighting up the room and you're going, yeah, you walk away going, I give myself an A+ for that one.
Yeah, you never know. I used to always joke about, I was beating the streets of Hollywood for quite a while, and I used to always joke about, I audition for a living. That's what I do.
That's
I audition
it.
for a living. I don't make my living performing. I audition for a living.
That's
and
right.
then occasionally, we'll rock a good national commercial or something and make a bunch of money all at once, and then nothing for a long time.
Well, the work is the audition process or the interview process or the sales process when it's parties, events, and stuff. The doing the gig is the reward.
Absolutely.
This is people, we go days and days. We're driving in the rain and parking and back and forth. And then you land a really good one. And you have to say, well, yeah, you got to be paid that well on this one because it makes up the last 100 days of, and there are actors, they go out, they nail everything. I came to LA. I remember, I told this story before. I'll share it with your audience. I literally 100 auditions with nothing.
Oh.
It was that Acme Talent. Adam Lieblein was my agent, and he stuck with me. And Gwen Pepper was, I don't know who she's with now, but I think she's still an agent. They didn't abandon me. They believed in me. And 100 auditions in, I'm completely demoralized. And I went out there and I said, well, I don't care. I'm not going to dress up for this. I'm not going to shave. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just showing up because, boy, I got it. And I went there and I walked in there and they went, perfect.
Oh.
And it turned into the role Benny on In the House, which was on NBC at the time. It moved to UPN later, and it turned into a recurring character, kind of jump-started things for me.
How did Liar Liar come about? I know it wasn't in my big intro, but this is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We used to watch it over and over. I used to watch it over and over with my kids.
It's so funny because I have this really a fraction of the movie, but it's me on screen by myself in this happy moment, and I get a lot of notice for that. To this day, people remember it, and I've had people write to me letters asking me to sing them the happy song on their birthday and stuff like that.
And you wrote that, right?
Yeah, I had through learning that you can audition and do great work and never get anything for it except more. I let go, and I just said, you know what, I can't control what happens after I leave the audition room, but I can control this performance. This may be the only 3 minutes I ever get to play this character for an audience, might be in this audition. And as soon as I decided to use the audition as a performance opportunity, this is one more place to be an actor. This is what I'm doing. And if I let nerves get the best of me or think and try and get out of just do what you do. This may be the only chance you ever get. So it was an interesting script for Liar Liar. The character was called Captain Fuzzy the Clown. It was supposed to be a pretty lousy, the stereotypical bad birthday party clown, And they said, but we don't care. Do whatever you want. So I drilled a couple of holes in this piano, this portable Radio Shack piano, and I put on a strap. And I hooked it on so I could walk around. It was battery operated. I had already written the happy song, which I had been, for whatever reason, I had written like 5 or 6 kids' songs, and that was one of them. And I just went in and I sang the happy song for the audition, and with this ridiculous costume on. And while I'm doing it, I'm doing some kids' magic tricks and it's kind of keeping the plates in the air, doing doing an exchange bag silk routine while I'm playing with the other hand, and they're cracking up. And I walked away, and a week later I got the call, you got the part, so no call back or anything. And they threw away the script and said, just play your songs in a movie and do what you do. So I did that.
So there was actually no script for you. You just went in and did your thing?
It was to be a pivotal moment, by the way, in the movie is when poor little Max, little boy, was once again let down by Jim Carrey playing his father, who promises everything and delivered nothing. And I'll be there. And he didn't show up for the party. Mm-hmm. But I was there to entertain the kids, and I jump up behind the couch playing the happy song. And then after that, when he's singing, he's making his birthday wish, and he wishes that his dad would stop lying, and that was the magic that created his problem with lying. That's why he became Liar Liar. And then they cut back and they got a nice expression, which I thought was for me, was more rewarding than the song, even because Tom Shadyac, the director, didn't have to cut back to that, but people remember that moment too. So it was a nice thing. Interestingly enough, Tom Shadyac loved clowns. He went on to direct Patch Adams. He loves clowns. He loved my Happy Song. Mm-hmm. And my understanding is I was hired for a week on the movie to do that 8 seconds of film that you actually see me in.
Yes.
But my understanding is for that 100-day shoot, after my wrap, there was like 50 or 60 more days of the shoot. He started every day with the crew and the cast singing the Happy Song. That's what I heard. So that was it. And then he brought me back in to record a few more songs. One of them was played in the background in a different scene when Carrie Elwes and Maura Tierney were talking and arguing in the kitchen while the party's going on in the other room. So very gracious. And I remember being on the set, and Tom Shadyac, this fantastic, wonderful, sweet human being, comes over to me and he's saying, "So you're a real clown, huh?" And I'm going, no, I'm an actor. I'm playing. I was so full of arrogance and pride and did not want to be. The truth of the matter is that turned him off. He didn't care for that. He loved clowns. And here
some of my best friends are clowns.
Exactly. turns out it wasn't the best response, but nice man. I understand he wrote a big book and he's touring with it. He had a few years ago a bicycle accident that changed his life. I think it gave him a disability or something so he kind of left mainstream Hollywood to kind of devote the rest of his life to helping people. So he's had an amazing career. I mean, as an A-list director, working with Jim Carrey in some of these beloved movies like Liar Liar, and I think he did those the Pet Detective movies, and I think he went on to do. I know he did Patch Adams after that. And had I said, "Oh yes, I love clowns," I probably would have been in that movie too. But I didn't read that situation too clearly.
You never know what can happen.
Nah, you never know. I will tell you, it was one of the more rewarding moments of my life to participate. I've been very lucky in Hollywood proper, the A-list, to have had some moments. I got to be opposite Brooke Shields, had a moment opposite Jerry Seinfeld in that special I talked about, got to be in this movie with Jim Carrey. I got to do Wings in a terrific scene where I learned the 3-card Monty, so I could take Crystal Bernard and Steve Weber for their money as a character. It was my first co-star role. No, not for one of the early ones anyway. Even though these were small roles, not big parts, I consider myself very fortunate to have had this opportunity to kind of be in the big time for a minute,
I don't know if that's luck as much as hard work and skill.
Well, I will say, if not lucky, it was certainly fortunate. I mean, I'm an iconoclast, okay? I love producing my own work. I don't like to wait in line. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a day player. I'm not these people that will go to the workshops or do the postcards anymore to syndicate. None of that. I'm just going to do my thing. Mm-hmm. And I've always been that way. And I always say, they always talk about the top songs of all time, and the only reason these are the top songs of all time is because they're the ones that got the backing from the distributors. We like to think the cream rises to the top, but the studios, the networks, all of these entities have a lot of control over reaching an audience. There are a lot of great musicians that never got out of the garage.
A lot of great actors that never made it in the big time.
Not every magician can be John Abrams or David Copperfield. Okay?
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that having a worldwide audience, while really terrific and very fortunate, does not negate the many unsung heroes. Now, who knows? Maybe they didn't have the courage to stick with it, or the patience to stick with it, or whatnot, or their priorities changed in life, or it just wasn't in the cards. Who knows? I mean, I think you have to love this craft so much, and you have to love that whether you're playing for one audience member or 10 audience members, or you reach a worldwide audience with a hit show or movie or a podcast, that you're not in it. An artist, a painter, can paint, and it may sit for hundreds of years before it's discovered. Mm-hmm. A writer can write whether someone reads it or not. And these days, there are many outlets. I love YouTube. I love being a vlogger and reaching even a small audience that way. I love having the control over my content. I think a lot of, so it's a bit more democratic these days than back in the day when there was very few outlets for artists and performers to be seen.
Yeah, it is way different, especially with YouTube has really changed everything, podcasting.
Oh, beautiful. Sure.
It used to be you were controlled by the networks or
right.
Going and auditioning and doing all those things. But now you can get out there, do it yourself. What I'm doing right here, what you're doing with Sharpo Entertainment. Now we have the opportunity with all the technology to do it ourselves.
That's right. It's nice. I mean, hopefully that someone notices and then helps facilitate you reaching a bigger audience.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, all of us who are doing this have to find satisfaction in the doing and not some other reward for doing it. That may not come. But if you can reach just one person, if you can inspire one member, somebody out there listening that hears your story or is inspired by something you said or shared, or your art or that magic trick or that moment, that laugh, whatever it was, improved their life, even for a second, then you have done terrific. Honest to goodness. You got to take great satisfaction and pride that you have an opportunity to do that.
It is a great feeling. Years ago, I don't know, 20 years ago, I did a birthday party. More recently, I saw a lady at an event, and she introduced me to a gentleman that was in the military and said, "Do you remember him?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't remember him." He said, "Well, you did his 5th or 6th birthday party 20 years ago. And here comes a military man, 25 years old, and he still remembers it." And that was one of the most rewarding things I've ever had happen to me.
I'm sure it's happened to you more than once and sometimes you don't ever get to see. But yeah, there are kids out there who've grown up that we've made their day, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very special too, I don't think that can be discounted. And these days, if you can do it your way, you don't have to, it used to be that, to me, the be-all, end-all. If I couldn't be on that little box in the living room or on that silver screen, and to me, the box in the living room was always bigger, by the way. Everyone wanted to be a movie star, but I grew up with TV. To me, sitcoms were the height of art. I wanted to be like Seinfeld. I wanted to be like Gilligan. I mean, these were my heroes, were TV sitcom stars.
Me too.
To me, that was bigger than the movies. It was more important to me. I said, wow, this is what it's about. So there you go. I think my whole life is derivative from watching Adam West as Batman.
See, I realized that I was getting a little older when I first started doing this. I'd make all sorts of references, pop culture references, Gilligan and that type of thing. And then all of a sudden, people started not understanding what I was saying, the pop culture references, and I was going, "Oh, I better update these, shouldn't I?"
It's funny, the shelf life of a pop culture reference. Some of them have 20-year shelf lives and others have a few days. I'll tell you, it's funny you said that because I used to do this thing with OJ's, with a glove, finding a glove and making people try it on during the show.
It was probably hilarious for 10 years, right?
You took out that glove and you didn't even have to say anything. It was just a sight thing. Boom. If it don't fit, you must have quit, Yep. And then all of a sudden it stopped working. And then a year or two ago, they put that the TV movie about the trial on TV, so it started working again.
Oh, so you brought it back.
That time to dust off that old gem,
Perfect.
Yeah, but you're right. Luckily I work with a lot of actors who are Jason Reed, a terrific actor that I've worked with for many years, who does a lot of mysteries with me, and he is up to date on every singer's name and he must read Entertainment Weekly and Us Magazine every day because he knows everybody, names I never heard of. But all he has to do is drop one of them and the audience goes into hysterics. Very talented. So I'm lucky I have these young actors around me because nobody wants to hear my old jokes.
Yeah, it's easier. I noticed when my kids were younger, it was easy to keep up on all that stuff because they kept up on it.
Right.
And just being around them, it was easy for me to just jump in.
That's right.
But since they've gotten older, they no longer follow all those pop culture references, you know?
Exactly. It gets very, it's difficult. And, you know, so for me, it's always looking for the universality of the joke, trying to find a way where you can make people laugh, even with, you know, no matter what it is. That's why physical comedy can always work. Just something, you know, a turn of a phrase. It doesn't have to be a commentary on what's going on in the world. It could just be a commentary on the human condition. Sure. And the foibles of, you know, getting older, or, you know, of having kids, or things that everyone goes through. So if you just look for the humanity, to be a cliche, if you just look for those connections, then it always it seems to come together.
Those are evergreen ideals that you
exactly
use for 10, 20, 30 years. You can just keep using the same ideals.
Well, that's right. It unites an audience, and the greatest comedians are the ones that find those shared things. I think it's very easy to go for low common denominator stuff, and that's what again separates a great artist from an okay artist. Is finding that humanity.
Yeah. Well, let's turn things around a little bit and switch up a little bit. Tell me about this strange and mysterious things you have on Facebook, because it's really fun to follow. I read them all the time. It's crazy.
A few years ago, Duffy Hudson, my pal and a great actor, I mentioned him earlier, plays these characters in my vlog. He and I decided, well, why don't we try putting together some kind of a YouTube show? And we decided to try our hand commenting on as regular guys exploring paranormal things like UFOs and Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster and haunted hotels. And I always wanted to do the more out of the world stuff, black holes and time travel and aliens. And he wanted to do more of the ghost huntings and haunting stuff. But together we came up with Strange and Mysterious World. And we only did a few, and we were only doing it once a week. And I had not yet learned to edit, so I was relying on the terrific Andrew Enriquez, my brother-in-law, who directed some award-winning films now. He was directing and editing for us. Now I just point my phone as a vlog camera and I edit it myself. But back then it was a little trickier. So the show did not last. We had a few fun things, and before we had a chance to work out the kinks, we just kind of went on to other stuff. But during the process, we created a Facebook group called Strange and Mysterious World. The artist Mark Dunn created that logo for us that you see at the top of the page. Mm-hmm. He also made the Sharpo logo for us. He's a really talented artist. His name is Mark Dunn. And he just did that for me as a gift, and it was so beautiful. And so it's become a thing. It's a small group. There's only about 300 or 400 of us that participate, I think, regularly. And it's whenever someone finds a strange and mysterious story, we share it, and we'll all jump on and discuss it. Was it real? Is that fake? Is this doctored footage?
Oh, yeah. Some of them are fascinating. I was just on the other day and saw a video of, I'm sure you're familiar with this one, a humanoid-looking thing crossing a freeway.
I saw that. It didn't look solid. It looked almost ethereal, like it was kind of in between dimensions. I mean, and I'll go there with these things saying, as a magician, as an esotericist, as someone who is open-minded, I can tell you there's always more than meets the eye. And there's always more to this reality than meets the eye. So to me, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it isn't there. That can sound very paranoid, but the fact is we can only see a tiny part of the full spectrum of what's visible.
Well, it's true, because I think all we can use is our five senses. If you think about some animals, for example, sharks, sharks can sense blood in the water miles and miles away. Right. Something that we couldn't do.
Yep.
Just taking that example, there are senses that we don't have.
And the ones we do have
that we can't feel, see, taste, or hear.
And the senses we can taste, but people can fool us with artificial grape soda. Even those senses are easily fooled. Those with open minds can say, there's stuff beyond the senses. And I think there are moments when the veil between dimensions is a little thin. I think, sometimes that's around the autumn equinox, for instance, right around that time of Halloween, the veil between worlds is very thin. And I think that's when these entities can be a little bit more visible. So I believe a lot of this stuff. I'm open-minded a lot of this stuff. I'm not freaked out by it. I'm more entertained by it. It awakens my sense of wonder, mystery. So that's my strange and mysterious experience. One of my favorite was being an early commenter on what they now call the Mandela effect, which is people misremembering pop culture and thinking that someone has actually changed the timeline. Someone's gone back in time and changed the Ford logo. Someone went back in time and changed Berenstein Bears to Berenstain Bears. All the weird things. People misremember that Darth Vader said, "No, Luke, I am your father," rather than "Luke, I am your father." They misremember that Kirk never said, "Beam me up, Scotty." So there's these cultural phenomenon called the Mandela effect, where half the world believes he died in prison back in 1992.
Mandela.
Yeah. So that was really a fun element for the Strange and Mysterious World program. And we had Mike Henry, the lead singer from Heart Six, Fuse, they call him. He came on the show and he talked about how that blew his mind when we had discovered this Berenstain Bear.
Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't freak me out. It's fun for me. It's fun for me, and it's proof to me that there is more than this. And I need to know. I need to have that feeling that there's more to life than the mundane world.
Well, that's one of the things I've always admired about you is in your world, it seems like life is a playground and you're always exploring new avenues. And
right. I don't
quality
suffer
to
from
have.
mental illness. I don't suffer from it. I enjoy every minute of it. No. Thank you, though. It's nice of you to say. And I'm glad you mentioned the Strange and Mysterious World. I'm less involved than I was. I'm more involved now with a second page called How Well Am I?
Oh.
Yes, which my middle name is Howell. I wanted to have another brand to go with my Sharpo brand, but more along the lines of happiness and inspiration. So I started the How Well Am I page, where I curate and collate inspirational things and I post over there. So if you get a chance, facebook.com/howwellami, HOWELLAMI. And that kind of was where I wanted to take the vlog, and why I started that was really about finding that.
Sure.
Inspiration. That's my life's. I have a couple of mottos. My one life motto I have is always have a good motto handy. I think that's a good motto. No,
it's a good motto.
Yeah, always have a good motto handy. No, my other one is let inspiration move us to action.
Let inspiration move us to action.
Right. So one, you got to let it. So you got to get out of your own way. Two, you got to be filled with it. You got to be, for whatever that is that fills you with love and joy and delight, and then you share it. I always say, first, if you look at the Hermetic law of rhythm, you breathe in and you breathe out. When you breathe in that love, light, and laughter and joy that God wants to fill us all with. And when you breathe out, you share it with the world. So that's kind of how I like to think of it, is a relationship with the divine and with your fellow human beings.
Nice. That's beautiful.
I know you were expecting more comedy, right?
No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Everyone looks at me. They think I'm this big wise guy. They go, "Oh, here, this guy's going to be trouble." And they all immediately look at me and think, New York, funny wise guy. He's going to be a troublemaker. He's going to be an insult comic. And I do plenty of that too. But really, at heart, I'm just living, man.
Yeah. Well, you're a good guy. You're a good guest on my show, too. I really appreciate you joining me today.
Oh, you kidding me? This is a terrific joy. John, I follow your exploits daily on Facebook and on the social media. You're an inspiring guy. You really are. You've created such a terrific niche for yourself as an entertainer and as a family man and a father. And now podcasting, you're able to reach your worldwide audience. And, I do remember working with you way back in the day in the 90s and having so much fun. I expect many more big things from you.
I'm looking forward to it.
Don't let me down, man. No.
Well, I know, now that you've built me all up. No, this is a big adventure, and I'm really excited about this podcast because I can share folks like you with people around the world. Your philosophies and people like Dan Chan, the Magic Man, and Mr. Balloon's going to be on in a couple of weeks.
Well, I can't believe I'm inside I'm in the company of terrific artists. That's always where I wanted to be. So it's very exciting.
Oh, good. It's exciting for you. It's certainly exciting for me. In fact, we're going to wrap it up in just a second here. But before we do, every week before I do the interview, I post on my own Facebook page, The Variety Artist, that folks can ask you questions. My future guest questions. So Dan Chan, the billionaire's magician, asks, I think we may have already covered this, but you can just jump in. How does he run his shows, meaning you? How many venues does he work at?
Okay. I do anywhere from, I think right now we do about over 100 events a year. I would do more, but I want to put everything I have into each one. I have my family and that's so I work as much as I want to work. I'm lucky to say that. So about 100 events a year. We travel all across the world. I do have my favorites. I did mention them here on the show, but we can take the program anywhere, any private area, put it that way, a boat, a train, a cruise, your own house. And, of course, La Chene, the 94th Air Squadron, the Queen Mary. We used to play a terrific room in Silver Lake called El Cid, which is a historic dinner theater. We packed that room every Friday night for a year. And you and I used to play Yamashiro when
That's right.
we produced the show. And now you and I are just down the hill there at the Magic Castle, which is very cool. It's like we're right there, back to home,
Right down the street from Yamashiro.
That's right. Right next on the same hill.
All right, I'm going to ask you for a book recommendation, and then we'll let you go.
Well, I've been let go many times today. The book that comes to mind, if I had said, well, read just one, I would say read The Four Agreements. I think it's a great book. Be impeccable with your word, do your best, take nothing personally, and make no assumptions. The Four Agreements you can make with yourself. Another great book you can read is The Sleep Book by Dr. Seuss. It'll put your kids to bed in 3 minutes, and it'll make you a better auditioner. Because nothing is a tongue twister like Dr. Seuss.
Oh, yeah. I used to read to my daughter, Captain Underpants, and I would read the same 2 pages over and over every single night because she would fall asleep about halfway through the first page.
Very just wonderful stuff, and honestly, I think for an artist to read that stuff, that'll keep the childlike quality going. Other book recommendations I can do privately through PM, private message on John's page, and I'll give you some answers. I had one more in my head. Think and Grow Rich. Anything by Napoleon Hill, anything by Norman Vincent Peale. These guys really influenced my life in this. And here's one more for your really occult-minded ones. The Kybalion.
What is it called?
The Kybalion by the Three Initiates.
The Kybalion?
Kybalion. The Kybalion. I'll give you that. That's for the more New Thought movement people who can really have their toes stepped on philosophically or religiously, that they can really be open-minded. If you don't think you can do that, don't read that one.
All right. Well, I'm going to hunt them down. I'm going to put them in your show notes so that way someone can just click on the link and go right to them.
And the fact is, just read everything and anything you can. Soak up this life as much as you can and reflect it back to your fellow human beings, and then we'll all be richer for it.
Thank you, Eric. You're awesome.
John, thank you. God bless you, and thanks for having me on the show.
I really appreciate you taking the time to do it.
My pleasure.
And thanks to all my variety artists, and tell a friend.
That's all for this episode of The Variety Artist, but your journey continues on our website, Go to thevarietyartist.com for more strategies, insight, and resources, as well as show notes on today's guest to assist you in your career. We'll see you on the next episode of The Variety Artist. But until then, go out and book those gigs, make some money, and have some fun.